These are the breaks. What's happening? Break it up.
Yeah, don't push me because I'm close to the bed.
Because I ain't get my afternoon sleep in.
Yes, sir. Sunday night service. What's happening, y'all?
Welcome. We welcome you once. We welcome you twice. Welcome you in the name of Jesus Christ.
He gonna sing secular music, then try to be churchy.
That's correct. That's how you get saved. How y'all doing out there in Facebook land, YouTube land, Twitter land? Where else we broadcasting?
Out
in the podcast.
Did you go to Instagram? Did you put Instagram on?
We're not on Instagram yet. We still haven't figured it out. We're old people. We're old preachers. We don't know Instagram. We don't be on the Instabook.
We on
in the face
MySpace.
Tweet.
We on MySpace.
Don't you love when preachers say social media wrong? Yeah. Y'all be out there face tweeting. Instabooking with the devil. Need to Instabook your way back to the Lord. This is the only book I need.
That's the only book.
Hey, welcome. Let's get those numbers up. Come on in and say good evening. How you doing? Welcome to Sunday night service. Testimony service is now open.
Yes. Go ahead and tag, share, like.
That's right.
Call your friends.
Grab a tambourine. Prepare your offering.
Yes,
we should just take up why are we not taking up a Sunday night service offering?
Hey, because we're gonna lose the few viewers we do have as soon as we start. Oh, they taking up offering. Hey, ain't watching them no more.
I bet you people will give.
Yeah,
I bet you anybody. I bet you some of you out there are waiting to sow a seed right now.
Let's try it. Cash App, Pastor Jeff.
Bless the man of God. Bless the man of God with a seed. Good evening, Pastor Tatum. Good evening, Mr. Callion. How you doing, my man? God bless you. Elder Carter. Good to see everybody. House. Come on in, tap in. So the world is at war, Pastor Jeff.
Man.
The world is at war. Do you fear the draft is going to come and draft all us Negroes up and send us?
Well, I've been there. I'm just waiting for them to call me back.
You want them to call you back?
I can still fit my uni. It's a little tight, but
I'm going to tell them I'm a lover, not a fighter. I got bone spurs. I don't know if we can have a draft in this. Do you think we can even have a draft in this generation? Is it even possible to have a draft? Do you think that's possible?
I think it's too much. They will go crazy.
We're too free. We're too free. We're too smart. People will be coming up with all kind of deficiencies, and y'all know I'm on Social Security, right?
hey, they do what they want to do. This is my life. I ain't got to do that.
Yeah, do that.
Do nothing now. I got to stay black and my mama and them. All I got to do is stay black and die.
Stay black and die. And that's the crazy thing is we will not know that burning draft cards and stuff was some kind of radical thing. Refusing to go to war. Muhammad Ali.
Yep, ask Muhammad Ali.
That's radical to us. Like, we're looking at him as brave. And that's another reason why young people have a hard time associating and kind of respecting those things, because it's so easy for us now to just say no.
Yeah, it is. But it's also, to a lot of people, a mockery to not fight for the country that you live in.
Not anymore.
Oh, I'm just saying.
Not anymore, man. We're so polarized, man. Even patriot, I would even be interested to see what a 9/11, and I don't want to see it happen. I'm not interested in 9/11 happening.
Right. I got you.
I would be interested in seeing what a 9/11 type event would result in this particular atmosphere, because we were not yet quite in the super toxic, divisive. That's really, it's always been there. There's always been crazy partisan rhetoric for at least about the last 35, 40 years, especially. But these last 20 years, since about the George Bush, Al Gore thing, have just been monumental. But I guess the real question is, since this is religiously incorrect to all of our millions of viewers out there watching, is this the rapture or what? Is this a revelation?
I'm not as concerned about the rapture as the fact that Elon Musk was able to turn back on the internet. How much money do you have to have your own satellite?
Elon Musk is like Jesus Jr. at this point.
Russia was like, we're going to turn off our internet. Elon was, no, you're not.
He was like,
no, you're not.
I have an app for that.
That's boss. That's boss.
This guy literally created a whole spectrum internet out of thin air and just gave it to Ukraine. He's like, here. And he's just giving it to him. I mean, he probably will charge him $1 billion later and own it and call it Ukraine / Elon Musk country.
He's a man.
I mean, you're right, man. But is that another sign of the times that these things are real capabilities?
Absolutely.
That this is crazy. I mean, I said it today. I feel like I am living through a paragraph in a textbook I read in junior high school.
Wow.
That's what I feel. I feel like I'm living through it. Even the wars after the first attacks and there was so much rancor going on with everything. It didn't feel like this. And maybe it's because we always look at our wars as foregone conclusions, whereas this just seems to be really up in the air.
Yeah.
And you're like dealing with a real, actual strong enemy who has as many bombs as we do.
Absolutely.
And
I think
nuclear war. This cat.
How do y'all feel about the sanctions? Y'all out there in Facebook, how do y'all feel about the sanctions?
I'll tell you how I feel. I saw an Onion article, which is one of my favorite websites, where sanctions are mysteriously.
Stop me reading the corniest stuff.
I read the corniest stuff. It was like soldiers or Russian soldiers or weapons are disappearing because of the sanctions. They're just disappearing from their hands. Sanctions seem so weak when people are being killed and tanks are rolling.
Here's the truth of the matter. And y'all Trumpers may not like this, but here's the truth of the matter. Here's the truth of the matter. Over the years that Trump was in office, this dude's reserves have doubled. It went from 300 and some to 600. He has enough money to outlast these sanctions. I don't care what y'all do. Listen, he ain't worried. Yeah,
he's got cryptocurrency.
He ain't worried about no sanctions.
He's got Chuck E. Cheese bucks.
Chuck E. Cheese bucks.
He's got Disney dollars. McDonald's gift cards.
As long as he got what's the name of them? Oligarch?
The oligarchs.
The oligarchs.
Yeah, the rich people that just have the money all over. It seems just such a. And here's the sad thing: is like most things, our man Sleepy Joe, he just doesn't make things sound tough enough. Democrats never make things, even Obama, they just never sound tough enough. Trump could sound absolutely insane, even what he's saying. But just because he was insane and kind of crazy, you just kind of felt like, yeah, he might push that button for real, because he just doesn't see him. I mean, we already found out he's flushing papers down toilets. So this cat then took whole classified documents home and to Florida with him. That's ridiculous. But so I guess back to my original point, all the arguments, we got to get off this. We promise not to be as long. All the arguments that every time something happens, it's the end of the world and the saints need to pray like never before. This is a sign of the times. And I've seen both sides. I've seen saints stop it with the Lord is soon to come because this happened, because this has happened
over and over again.
Then I've seen the other side of brothers and sisters being like, don't trivialize. It's not good to joke. This really is the wars and the rumors of wars and the such and such.
It's definitely a serious thing. I think we all need to pray for peace.
But is it serious as in Jesus is like cracking the door open?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, when I say it's serious, I mean it's serious, and people are losing their lives.
Yes,
people are trying to get out of town, and from what I hear, I don't know how true it is that they're stopping the black folks.
Yeah, I heard that too. So now black people about to stop caring about Ukraine because once we hear that one of us was called the N-word in Ukraine, like y'all can die. That's what it's gonna be. Am I lying? As soon as we hear some stories about black people being treated in Ukraine, they're gonna take all them flag filters down, all them pray for Ukraine ribbons. It's gonna be gone. And it's funny because we kind of already knew that, but we forgot about it because we saw suffering. But again, is it revelation serious? Is it people pointing to scriptures and saying, see, the beast from the north will, and the 10 horns will gather together.
It's all wars
will rise from the ocean.
Wars have, I mean, just be ready. I don't care if this is it or not.
He looks like he could be the Antichrist. Putin looks very antichristy to me. He does. Putin looks antichrist.
He's listening right now. He on religiously correct right now.
Vladimir, we would like to have you on our show.
I ain't playing with Putin.
I will reach out to him. He looks like the classic villain from like Die Hard movies and stuff. It just feels, and of course he's Russian, so the Eastern Europeans are always the bad guys in our movies. So yeah, I mean, I'm cool on it because, as we know, my end times beliefs have shifted anyway. And so I just don't believe in living in panic. Just don't believe in living in a panic about the end. So
absolutely,
we're praying for Ukraine only as long as y'all treat Black folk right. Then the prayers stop.
Let them
there.
over. Take them out the subway.
You don't want them anyway. If you don't like them, let them go. If you don't love me, then don't talk to me. In the words of Fantasia. Cool. So what time is it, Jeff?
It is Meme of the Week.
Meme of the Week.
We're right there.
It's Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
Thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
These are all jokes. We are just playing.
Big Mike, give us the meme of the week.
I didn't even read it. That's insane.
Once you see, I saw. I suddenly heard bad words in the atmosphere. Words that we don't say.
I don't care how long the praise.
I don't care how long the praise break lasts. I'm still preaching this 3-hour message.
Absolutely.
That is classic Black preacher.
It is absolutely.
It's like the 11th commandment.
You have to.
We're gonna preach, and I heard my predecessor, the legendary Reverend Dr. Frank L. Hearn, say that I reserve the right to preach as long as y'all kept me in this chair during worship service.
Well,
he would get up and say, "Don't rush me. I reserve the right."
And most of us will start off by saying we're gonna try to make it quick, and we're gonna have
lying.
We're gonna have 4-5 closes.
I'm absolutely lying.
We're gonna have 4-5 closes.
I say it, and then I tell people I'm lying. I was like, I'm not gonna be before you long. Yeah, I am. I need to ask for forgiveness.
I probably.
But let's talk about the balance. Let's not talk about how long preachers can talk. We already know that. And by the way, can we just add in that preachers are obligated, number one, to acknowledge a bunch of people and things, or people will get mad at us.
Right.
That adds on before we even start preaching. And then at the end, we have to do prayer and ministry and further observations and pastoral reflections, or things will be left unsaid and done. So honestly, a lot of times your core sermon really isn't terribly bad for many people, but your time up can be that. But what about the balance? Because now the trend is shorter sermons, this, that, and the other. But a lot of our praise and worship sets are still fairly long, and it feels concerty, and it feels a little imbalanced to me. I think there should be some.
It has to.
Not 3 hours, but
we've all said it over the years that, the word is supposed to be the dinner. And if you got a whole
word
cake,
is the entree.
If you got a whole cake and the word is only but a chicken wang, where's, like you said, where's the balance?
But is that what the people want? It's what they want. But we have an increasing amount of people who are tired of the music being so long, and we're not admitting that either.
Right.
They're like, listen, I don't even need all this. I heard what
we
you
have
said.
a lot. That is an increasing amount of people.
I heard what you said the first time. You guys are really just singing to each other at this point. But 3 hours is obviously long, but I feel it. I mean, we're sitting back now, there's a difference though, because we are of the caliber of participating worshipers.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what it's like, say for maybe the first 3 months I was at Second Baptist, to be the preacher who just sits in a chair and waits for the time to preach. I don't know what that's like unless I'm actually a guest in somebody else's church. I don't know what that's like. I've been a pseudo organist, praise and worship leader, and then just a cheerleader in general. Just the idea of sitting back in the office and walking in later and all that. I've been with pastors. I want to start doing that.
I've been with pastors who do it. I've never done it. And I can't sing, and I'm going to be praising with the singing with whoever. So I'm gonna sing.
Jeff has said a true statement.
Yes. It is a truism.
But I guess there's just the issue with me of the balance people expect, because now you got people. I think it's ridiculous. You can't go over 20 minutes because of people's attention spans. I mean, if you stink at preaching, maybe.
I mean, that's the truth. What do you have to say?
And a terrible preacher actually told me that. So,
I mean, what do you have to say? If you're preaching good, people want to hear it. People, you got 12 mothers in the back saying, "Go ahead."
Well, they're always going to say
preach.
That. They say that to the guy that, didn't even say the correct.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to preach. I'm going to keep on preaching.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I'm just saying I'm going to take the time I feel is necessary because I do think that ministry is important, but I'm not doing it to torture you. Now, I know people who've done that. Like, I'm just going to keep you.
Right. And I'm also not the person who's going to say, I got to get all this out.
Oh no, y'all can come back next time.
I'm not that person who's gonna be like, I gotta get this out. Y'all gonna have to give me some time. No.
It's gonna be another thing, man. Yeah. Well, let's thank our sponsors for being our sponsors: Phillips Care family of businesses, Phillips Care cleaning service, residential and commercial, floor cleaning, basic cleaning, deep cleaning, carpet cleaning, upholstery. 330-219-2916. Please check out my man Fernando if you have any cleaning needs in your home or business. And while you're at it, it's already springtime. The gopher, the groundhog? Yeah. We don't know if he was right or wrong. We just know that spring is around the corner. So get your lawn care ready, those leaves up. Call Phillips Care Lawn Services at 330-219-7916. They will get you right. And I know it because I am a satisfied customer. And so let them know that Religiously Incorrect sent you to Phillips Care Cleaning, Phillips Care Lawn Services. You will not get a discount. They will not give you any sort of discount whatsoever, but he will say thank you for your business. So I appreciate the Phillips Care family of businesses for being sponsors of Religiously Incorrect. If you would like to be a sponsor of Religiously Incorrect, you can always check us out at religiouslyincorrectpodcast@gmail.com. Take your time and spell it right. We want to hear from you. We'd love for you to be a sponsor. Pastor Jeff, bring our special guest in. Introduce the man of the hour, the man of God.
The man of God.
The hour is far spent.
We have the man of God with us. This is a Youngstown native. He is a
Youngstown native.
Prognosticator of the gospel.
Did you say prognosticator?
Prognosticator of the gospel. He is the bishop, the doctor. He is the senior pastor of the Grant Worship Center. And why don't y'all do me a favor and put your hands together for my friend, Sylvester D. Patton III.
Oh, you know he can preach. He's the third. You know he can preach. When you're the third, you are automatically a good preacher. It's just required of you.
I don't know. I've been attempting to preach this gospel. I'm not as good as the two of you, but I am so excited to be on tonight. I love the vibe that you guys have, and hey man, let's get it. Let's go. Yeah,
did you hear that, Jeff? He's like, I'm trying to be like you, Doc. I'm trying to be like you.
I am. I'm trying.
And it's a privilege to have you with us. Everybody who knows and loves Reverend Dr. Patton, make sure you like, share, tag, say, hey. Matter of fact, we'll even give him permission to look down and share with somebody else on his page or on his church page, unless you're like us and you don't want your saints to see it, because we know what that's like. There's some shows we don't want them to see.
Real talk. I said, I don't know if they need to hear this, but anyway, I sent it to my private church page, my public church page.
Okay.
My page. I got on a couple other pages. So if I don't have a church to go back to, I'll be looking for.
It's our fault.
Okay.
It's
all right. Youngstown will gladly take you back.
Yeah. Jeff has a janitor's position at his church that he's looking to fill.
I'm going to have to come back to the valley, Yeah.
Listen. Tell us about yourself. We know that you're a Youngstown native, but tell us a few things about your journey. Give us the quick and dirty version, not that bio that we be sending out that's 3 pages long. Tell us about yourself.
Born and raised in Youngstown, Ohio, on the south side, 727 Brentwood Avenue, 44511. My mom and dad are still there. The neighbors I grew up with and my grandmother lived next door. I've known Pastor Jeff since I was in the 6th grade. And used to try to follow.
My condolences. My condolences to you.
following his footsteps on the football field. I went to the University of Toledo on football scholarship, and I met my wife there, Deanna. We're married, it'll be 23 years in July. Got a son, 11, daughter, 17. I didn't recognize my call to the ministry until I was 27 years old as we moved to Dallas. And I've been on fire for the Lord ever since. Went back to school, did all the things that my denomination requires, but I did it for me, not for the denomination. And I'm the pastor of Grant Worship Center, AME Worship Center. I'm part of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And I love my charge where I'm at. We're growing even during a pandemic, but at the same time, pastors, I'm just me. I have not changed. The same person in the pulpit, the same person in the parking lot, and I'm just glad to be here tonight.
Wow! Awesome!
Well, our topic today is old dog, new tricks, and we are talking. We are talking about everything.
Well, you older than me, Jeff. So
he's the oldest dog. He's the oldest dog.
I know for a fact. I know you are a full grade above me, but it may be
full grade.
Yeah. It's something like that. I mean, we can talk a little later about how we was on the football field, how I used to run y'all. Okay, but we ain't gonna talk about that.
Right? Wow. I feel the tension in the room.
But we on the Facebook page, I posted about how, everything nowadays is being updated.
Everything's updated.
You got to update your computers.
Let me upgrade.
It'll come to you. It'll text message. Your stuff need updated now.
They won't let you use your phone till you update.
Absolutely. So how do we feel about updating churches? Well, how do we feel about updating? Watch this, updating outdated churches.
Ooh, you're putting a label on it.
Do you remember when TVs used to have antennas on the back of them? And at a point, I believe it's the FCC, they said you will no longer be able to use antennas. You will have to, HDMI or a digital antenna of some sort. And they gave you a date to do it. Like unapologetically said, this is what we are going to do. And it happened. And if you had some foil, a hanger, I'm from Youngstown.
Yes, sir.
And your TV would no longer work without a digital antenna. We were forced to change, and we had to change in order to survive. Now we will change in every aspect. We've gone from 8 tracks to cassettes to CDs, to iPods, and we changed because we had to. Our cars have changed. Our computers. Try using a Commodore 64 right now.
Jeff has tried.
They gonna talk about my age, man.
We're just gonna talk about him all night long.
Mike older than me.
Hey, this phone has more memory and more capabilities than the first couple spaceships that went into space and went to the moon.
That is true. Wow. That is true.
And we have changed. We have been in every other aspect of life, but sometimes, many times, in some places, all the time, the church is the last to make that transformation. We wanted to look like how we wanted to look, and man, it's a struggle. It's a struggle.
So the question then is, because based off of your premise, which is brilliant, and I will steal it for a sermon, has that date come for the church? Have some of us missed it, and we are still in rabbit ears era and catching no signal from the community in any meaningful way? Every church has its core, so let's just pretend that don't exist. But has that date come, or do you feel it is coming, where there's going to be a hard cutoff for even what we would consider somewhat strong traditional churches?
Doc, it has already come for some churches. This pandemic has has brought out the best and the worst of our churches and what we technologically, technology and streaming worship services and things of that nature. I believe that some churches have already reached that point, and some, if I could use, like, if you're in the hospital, some churches are on life support right now.
Life support,
and the only
comatose.
thing that's keeping them alive is the denomination, is the system, but the ministry, the outreach, the effect in the community is gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it is worth saying that, like we see sometimes on Facebook or social media, where there's that really fit older person or that really good looking 70-year-old woman or that guy that's older and still lifting weights. Simply being traditional doesn't mean you're ineffective.
Come on, sir.
I think there is still space, and there will be people who get the right stream. They'll be in the right flow. They connect with their community or the culture well, and their place is either well established or they find a good established place. But I agree with what you're saying, that for the most part, where we have been has become more and more of a detriment to where we're going. And the generation that embraced that place of where we have been is quickly dying off. It's just numbers.
I'm really an old school guy, when it comes to ministry and preaching, and I am liturgical, but I like tradition, but I'm not a traditionalist. I'm able to flow in modern times, and what has happened. Some churches, honest to goodness, you could have taken a selfie in 1967 at some of our churches, and it still looks the same right now. But that same congregant has been through 3 to 4 houses, 15 cars. They have transitioned, made an upgrade in their life. But the church, the very house of God, looks exactly the same. I've always had an issue with that. I believe that's Haggai. Isn't it Haggai? It says, you have used your gifts, you have used the timber to take care of your house, but you have left the Lord's house in ruins. So therefore, I'm going to put holes in your pockets.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We've been taking care of our empires. It's now time to take care of the church.
Now I know this is true for Pastor Todd and myself, and I've never talked to you about it, but I also believe that it's true for you in some ways. Because I think a lot of times, because if we be honest, that the old guard are either passed away or are passing away. And so these churches are asking for younger, more vibrant pastors with vision and with, they want a new pastor to come in, but when they come in, they are throwing bylaws and traditions and I'm like, you asked for this, but now you want to throw this, and you know what I mean? And they'll tell God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore.
Well, the 7 last words of a dying church is, we have always done it this way. The 7 last words of a dying church.
Let me tell you something.
That's gone, dog. That's on Facebook tomorrow, like I said it.
where I am now, Grand Worship Center, I hope to be here for years to come. They wanted a younger pastor. The pastor that I follow actually did a great job. His name was Adam Carrington. I'm not just saying that to say that, but like for real, he stepped on some landmines that I was not prepared for. God knew exactly what he was doing. But when I came, they were looking for a younger pastor, younger leadership. And for the most part, I mean, like for real, for the most part, they have been very kind to my family and I, and to the vision and being innovative. There have been some of course, there have been some places where there's been some eternal fighting, but I can literally say, and I tell my church this all the time, everything that I've asked them for, they have eventually done. When I came into ministry, you always heard it's going to take you 5 years before you become the pastor.
7, Doc.
Yeah, 5 to 7. I'm talking about major pastor would tell me, Patton.
That's right.
Then I said, if I wait 5 to 7 years, I won't have a church.
Wow.
And I said that, and I took a chance.
Yeah, and we have very similar stories. Now, your church, you told us earlier, Grant Worship Center is 130 years old.
Right.
Progressive Baptist Church is 70?
No, I think it's 80 some years old.
Progressive? No, it's not.
I'm pretty sure it is. Where's Cynthia, type how old Progressive Baptist is.
It can't be 80 because I have members that remember when they split. They're like in their 60s.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I thought we just.
I didn't even talk about split. I didn't even talk about splits.
Pastor Jeff Pastors.
Say what now?
Please
how long he
pastors?
What's that? What he say?
He can tell how long the church is by how long Pastor Jeff Pastor. Our church is 105 years old. So we came in a very similar context, and I can say, yes, I have a similar experience with Second. They have worked alongside and gone along with most of the changes that I have implemented. And I did quite a few things pretty autonomously, but with having the ability to do it and also being able to show some financial frugality so that it wasn't like this giant leap into debt. Hey, I'm going to do the consumer grade projector this time and show y'all how easy it is to do. And maybe once they start to burn out, we can look into the more professional thing, the audio upgrades, social media, obviously, the power of social media, using it, streaming before the pandemic hit. 57 years. See, I was right. 57,
okay.
7 years. It's just because I know the story. I'm the oracle of Warren churches around here at this point.
You're right.
But in all seriousness, though, do we run into, and I'm going to ask two questions of you. The first one would be, do we run into the idea that it's not so much the willingness of the congregation, but there's also a complication of what is the effectiveness of making the change realistically with the heritage and the perception that people already have of the church? You can black it out and modern it up and do all of that stuff, but to the community, you still good old Second Baptist Church, and you might alienate people. And I know there's always new people to reach. And I'm not talking about the old folk.
I hear you.
I'm talking about people's grandkids, nieces, nephews, community members who were just used to a certain image and a certain feel. And actually, it's almost like a security blanket. Like parts of our Black community, and not all the old ones, want us to change, but then they kind of don't because they're just so used to us being who we are. And that's almost a comfort, even if it's kind of a weird, I don't know how to say it. I don't want to say the word negative. It's like a weird love-hate relationship, but don't change because I want to keep loving and hating you. So it's like, do you feel a complication with the system and the effectiveness? Like if we invest all of this and if we uproot all of this, will it actually result in more saved souls and more effective ministry? Do you find a tension there?
Yes. Literally when the question you were asking, I was just sitting there like, wow, you feel it. We want someone innovative. We want to go to the next level, but this gonna mess you up. At the same time, we want to stay the exact same way. So there is a cognitive dissonance there. It seems like there's always a, yeah, pastor, let's go. But oh, pastor, you're going too fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel, I feel that I feel that as being the pastor, even though they have accommodated, literally everything that I've asked for in time, like you said, Pastor Todd, because of financial, I've shown financial stewardship. I've been open and honest without fear of reprisal. This church is, financially in a whole nother realm than when I first got there. So they can, they trust and it does help that I've been married 23 years and that's the only woman I've been with. There's no scandal. I have integrity, as a pastor. So there's never been any issue on that way. But I feel that, uh, doing something new, but keeping it how it used to be. And at the same time, my church, it sits in a community. Well, yeah, it sits in a community, and this is gonna mess you up. That's probably 70 to 75% Asian. So,
whoa,
yes. So we sit in a community, and old school church, people saw your sign and came to church. Oh,
Yep.
there's the Second Baptist. We going to church. People are unchurched now. This is the postmodern. This is an unchurched world. So now we have to go out into the community in my church, and I know they're listening. We don't do that well. We have great intentions with all our workshops, our ministries, our revivals, but we don't go out into the community because there's still an old school mindset of, if they want Jesus, they'll come to
us.
Come to us.
They'll come to us.
Mm-hmm.
So what if, because we've seen it, and I won't call names, but we've seen it, whether it's a church plant or a renovation, rejuvenation of a ministry in a different direction, feel, aesthetic, whatever. What if it doesn't work or it's not working? And we've seen this in action where people make the investments, they make the shifts, they make the changes, and a year later, 3 years later, 5 years later, people aren't coming any more than they were. I mean, an HD camera is not going to make your sermons any better, bro.
Nah. Come on, man. That's real tough.
But maybe people didn't read their community right. Maybe some people moved ahead, not of the congregation, but the actual culture that they're in.
Absolutely.
Warren is an old school culture, for instance. Like, we're not super new school anywhere, to be honest. There's a small pocket of some younger minded people and kingdom, but that's not the main situation in our city.
Can I add to that? Because a lot of churches, such as mine, were made in a way.
Oh, it's almost impossible
that were made in a way that you really can't go to new school. We know you got the pews,
and you put a TV on the wall, you'll knock the church down.
I mean, but it's just, but it doesn't. And I think that oftentimes maybe it's not even changed the church, but it's changed the mindset.
Yeah,
it's changed the mindset of the people to say, okay, we may not be able to do all the new updates that a lot of these churches are doing, but we can still have a new attitude about coming, an attitude about evangelism, attitude about all that.
I think
stuff.
the aesthetics affect the attitude. The aesthetics, the look, the motif of the church affects the attitude, but at the same time, like you said, it could be too jarring, even if you didn't. I've seen some white brothers, mostly white brothers, some black brothers and sisters, come into real old traditional churches and like just totally rip that sucker apart, clear out the choir stand, and but I don't think our people are ready for like them crates and stuff and them wooden pallets they get from the back of the grocery store with them barn doors and lights hanging from the ceiling. It's like, that's just too much, but I get where they're going with it because it looks slick to us. But let Mother Jackson come in and see that.
Mother Jackson gonna stop giving them tithes.
Pastor Todd, you said something about the HD camera doesn't make your preaching any better.
Nope.
And when it comes down to it, the preacher got to bring the word.
Yeah.
With our digital screens, with our screens on the left and the right, with all our cameras, HD, if you're not bringing the word,
absolutely,
they'll leave your church in a minute. I believe that what we need to do in our communities is to do a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yeah.
What do our neighborhoods need?
Absolutely.
And how because we always want to, put on them what we want to do for them. But have we ever asked our community, what can we do for you? What are you looking for?
Right.
You know,
right.
I'm in the process of literally, I've been here 8 years, or almost 8 years, and now I'm gonna do a SWOT analysis to figure out what does my community need. We live, you know, we live in a food desert. I need to start a food pantry. People will come.
Makes sense.
I sit on Pastor Jeff's been there. He's preached there. He killed the place. They want him to come back, but I said no.
I believe it. I believe it.
I said no. We sit on. We have 15 acres of land, and about 10 of it is not used. We need to put a community garden and let the community tend to it. If you take care of the community will take care of your church. And
Wow.
we're so worried about where they join. I've got to the point where they can go to any church they want to. I need to do the work of ministry.
Right.
Come on, sir. You talking?
They didn't come to my church. Well, maybe they ain't supposed to come to your church, but you do the ministry. I'm telling you, God he's a great CPA.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
He remembers who, my goodness, he remembers who sold. He remembers who planted.
Absolutely.
And he's
absolutely
going to increase. So we got to stop worrying about who comes to our church. How many heads can we count on Sunday morning? God is looking. I'm gonna bless that church. I'm gonna bless that. I'm gonna bless that ministry. I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
Well, then, no.
It's okay.
You're on it. You're on it. But that brings to mind attention that we have to be super duper honest about. Then what then is the purpose of updating the church? Because the fact of the matter is, most people are saying the people ain't coming because it's old. The people ain't coming because it's stale. The people ain't coming because, and so most people either explicitly or implicitly are saying we need to upgrade to attract. That's what they're saying. We need to upgrade to attract. Now, what you're saying about ministry, everybody agrees with, or at least pretend they do, or say they do. We want to do the work of ministry. I want to feed my community. I'm all about the kids, blah, 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 blah. Now, I'll be honest. I'm not going to say I'm realer than anybody else or anything like that. But I have said to my church, I will not spend tens and because we don't have it and hundreds of thousands of dollars if I had to choose between upgrading video walls on my, in my sanctuary and putting money towards a playground or a community endeavor. If you had to make me choose, I will cheap out the inside all day long.
Absolutely.
For what I could make impact on the outside. And I have literally done that. Literally, like, how can I just get the best quality I can without hurting the church that we can go this way? But the fact of the matter is, people, whether it's Facebook views, which of course we know, like the studio look, the modern look, the screen look has a lot to do with everyone jumping into streaming and all of that, making it more aesthetically pleasing for streaming, for video production. But also when people walk in, they want them to be impressed. They want them to feel that they are in a place that reflects their culture in the 21st century. So if that's the purpose, which we know it is, or is there some other purpose? Like, now are we just changing just to say, I don't like because it look old? Right. If it's not to attract, then what's the purpose of upgrading?
What I did when I got to Grant Worship Center, I wish I'd have had those pictures. I took a picture of the pulpit and the stage and everything. And first of all,
I got mine first night.
Yeah.
Got mine.
Pastors need to have a vision.
Yes, absolutely.
And we get our vision from God. No, not the planning of the next annual day or how we're going to raise some money, but what is the vision for your church? Because without a vision, the church is going to perish. What is the vision? So I asked God, I took a picture of our sanctuary, and God told me, and I told my church this, and you literally need to put screens on the wall because the sanctuary is too big, and some of your members, they can't see the preacher. They can't see. I don't use worship guides anymore. Matter of fact, it's helped us save probably about $3,000 to $4,000 a year in printing because everything is on the screens.
Mm-hmm.
The first Sunday that I preached, I realized I couldn't hear myself, and I was hoarse. And not only could they not hear, I can hear myself, they could not hear me at all. So I said, Lord, we need to get a new sound system, because faith cometh by hearing, and by hearing the word of God. So we updated the sound system. Most of the change in my church was because of necessity.
Practical
I
needs.
was trying to be like someone down the street.
Right.
Beautiful sanctuary, and we added some. I realized that it was dark. If I show you this picture, you're not gonna believe how dark it was, because you didn't know how light it could be because it was dark. So we added some lights, and now what we think is just like how it's always been, it hasn't always been. But to answer your question, updating your sanctuary, I believe in your church as a whole, it can be a blessing, especially to our generation, because our generation, we want to be attached to things that look like us.
Okay.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
That's how we roll. If I'm rolling in the Benz, if I'm rolling in the Acura, I don't want to go to a car. I don't want to go to a house of worship. I'm just telling you, my members, something that looks like a '57 Chevy. I got a beautiful home. I've upgraded, and I because I'm telling you, people shop churches like they shop for clothes.
Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you for mentioning that, because let's unplug and go back to our older generations who we love. Mm-hmm. I think it would help if there would be honesty from the older generation. That's why a lot of them found the church they found, because in the 50s and the 60s, it reflected the ideals and the aesthetic and the look that they were attracted to. And then when they did their building projects and they saw that design, that architecture, that thing that was come on, y'all, wood panel, that wood paneling, that shag carpet, them, all that stuff, them lights we still got, the circular lights with the crosses on the side, the chandeliers, that was the modern look of the day. That was the LED lights and the screens of the day. And they wanted, to be honest, they wanted to be the best.
Absolutely.
They wanted to be, they took pride in getting them new pews in there when the church down the street still had chairs. They took pride in saying they had that nice microphone on the system, on the stand, while the guy down the street was still hollering and trying to be heard. And I think that we're not, maybe because we live in such what appears to be a more fickle society because of social media, it's always looked at negatively to just want modern aesthetics for the sake of it. I tell my church all the time, Mr. Lathan, who is a well-known builder around here, told me when he was a kid and he walked in Second Baptist, and it was the new church that was not built like any other church. It was the most architecturally modern-looking wonder of little old Warren at the time. Mm-hmm. So when you build something new in 2022 and people are like, I don't get it, I don't understand, I'm like, yeah, they didn't get that either. Right. Some people were probably wishing they had the little peak roof with the same 12 rows that everybody else had, and the pulpit only this big and a piano on one side, and that was it. And they went a little further. So I feel like, well, you said people want to have an attachment. And so what that creates is, and I'll let Jeff jump in here, the tension between the attachment that's already been established from the old, and they ain't died yet, and they still here, or they children still here, and their names are still on them pews, versus the attachment that the new generation, the stamp that the new generation, and I often say this in my church. One time, my wife and I tried to pack to go for a thing together, and she insisted on using the same suitcase. And she put her stuff in first. And by the time she got done putting her stuff in, there was like a sliver for my stuff. And I said, that's what it's like coming into a church as a young man when everything's already established. Right, and they say, give us your vision, give us what you want it to look like. I'm like, everything already got his name on it. Ain't nothing for me to, there's nothing, there's no space there. But our generation is thinking the same way our grandparents thought when they built these churches originally. We want it to look like us. We want to be modern. They took pride in that, man. Black folk was coming up in the 40s and 50s and 60s. They took pride in being able to build this stuff. And so I think like maybe that should be a part of the conversation is honesty. You had your day where it looked like you.
So is that the reason why now
we're just,
well, no, not even us, But they're saying, I don't want to change. This is what I envisioned.
It was their
50
vision.
years ago.
You're wiping out my vision.
Yeah, you're wiping away my vision to make way for your vision. And, so I think there has to be some type of mid ground. There has to be some type of.
Well, that's why they be like, y'all can change this when I'm dead. Y'all can change this when I'm gone.
But there has to be some type of bridge because this younger generation needs a vision too. Sooner or later, y'all are going to die. It's the truth.
Right.
Sooner or later, but they have a vision.
When God gives vision, he always gives provision. And I remember having a meeting about these screens. And you would have thought that there were some crosses where the screens are now.
Oh Lord. Yes.
And Pastor Todd, Pastor Jeff, you feel me. And
yes.
The cross. I love y'all. And they know I like for real. They know listen, you would have thought Jesus put them up there. And
yes.
I said, I want to put a screen on the left and the right. Someone said, you mean gonna move the cross? I said, yeah, I'll move the cross. Now, Jeff's been to my church. Pastor Jeff been to my church. I have a 20-foot cross in the middle of the pulpit.
It's not enough. You gotta have them thieves too, Doc. You gotta have them thieves. It ain't real.
Malefactors.
It ain't real without the malefactors, Doc.
So this is real talk. In the meeting went terrible. I went in my office and I cried and I said, God, I believe that you wouldn't have given me a vision if you didn't give me provision. We finally got the screens up. The member who fussed about the screens pulled me to the side and said, Pastor, I love them because I could not see the print on my worship guide. There
it is. I had the same experience. The hymns.
And when she told me that, I said, it's worth the struggle, old dogs, new tricks. But at the same time, and I was always kind. I didn't, in the AME church, we had a church conference and we voted and they said yes. I used to think I would have to be unanimous. I don't care about being unanimous. Give me 5-4. If 5-4, that's what we doing. And,
yes, sir.
I'm taking that to the next meeting.
It's all about, I always keep saying my father in ministry, William Watley, he said, God has a vision for your life that's greater than any vision that you could have, others can have for you. And when you cast vision for your church, God will give provision and everything. And I've said it 3 times already on this call. Everything that I've asked God to do at my church through time, through struggle, through a lot of push and pulling, God has done, man. And the people, there's some who have gotten with it. There's some, to take a phrase, some have stepped up and some have stepped off.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to ask, when we talk about church changing, in the Black church, there's that history element, and I hold it dear, that it's almost like tearing down what might be your community or congregation's monument to itself. It's almost like changing the Washington Monument or the Lincoln Memorial, because our churches, because of the lack of other spaces and other places, they really do represent for us that heritage, literally our history. And then you add to it, I'll be honest, I don't necessarily hear, and they might be a bad example, but they're dying for different reasons. Catholic Church is saying, oh, we got to upgrade this as much. They almost want to fight for the marble and the stone and the oak wood from the Ukrainian forest or whatever that they got. We seem to be the ones kind of chasing that. And what you said about the changes you made were pure and practical and necessary. Mm-hmm. I think some of us are just painting walls black because we saw, Reginald Sharp do it in Chicago, and we saw E. Dewey Smith do something, and we want this screen, we want that. And it's not really of a practical matter.
Right.
Nobody's demanding it, and nobody's attracted to it. And sometimes it can even be off-putting when it's without necessity or explanation. How do we find that balance between the historicity and the needful things, and then the fact that there are people just out there like, look, if it's a new toy out there and I can buy it, I'm gonna get it.
Every new thing.
Yeah, man. You just said something. I personally, I'm not into the dark church.
Me either. My wife say turn the lights on.
Hate it.
My wife say turn them lights on.
I mean,
I want to see them demons.
I've preached in them. I think it's it look. I'm just some things I'm just old school in, and we try to put new wine in old wineskins.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
We because the mega church. I'm in Texas. I'm in mega church. Austin.
Oh yeah.
We got a fair share. Dallas is just crazy. Houston is ridiculous. I mean, it's churches you never heard of got 4,000 members. But we'll see that the mega church has a video board. I got to get a video board. So we're trying to do Ritz-Carlton ministry.
Yes, sir.
Budget.
Yes, sir.
And we don't have the congregation for that. And now as pastors, we're stressed out, and we don't think that we're able to really. This is a bad word. Compete.
Especially, that's
it. See the pandemic.
That's a real word.
When we saw like when I saw New Birth's worship service and the cameras and the praise team, I said, hold on, I got to get myself together. Then I checked myself. Grant Worship Center is not New Birth.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You got to know who you are. Now we upgraded, we bought some cameras, we did our thing, and now we've improved it, and we ready to rock. But I'm not Bishop, I'm not the Potter's House, I'm not Marcus Cosby. I don't have that budget. And sometimes we'll drag our churches to be like someone else, and then when it just doesn't work, because we're competing, and it all comes back to what Pastor Todd said. Now you got all this stuff. You got a video board and can't preach.
Listen.
Right.
Listen.
And it also goes back to
you got 20 microphones and 3 praise.
Yeah.
But it goes back to what you said too. That's not your vision.
That's not your vision.
No, his vision ain't your vision. I want to ask you something, and this is sort of personal, and I mean, you can answer it if you want to. But I want to ask, before you went to Texas, you were on St. Louis. I can't remember the name of the church you were at.
Oh, I was actually, I was in
Earl.
Oh, St. Andrews. Yeah.
St. Andrews. Now that was a sort of a box church, correct? Mm-hmm. It was, I know a lot of people are going to these box churches now. Yeah. I know. How was that? Is that
what's a box church?
It's
the square.
Just the big square.
It was basically a storefront type structure. I'm sorry, I hear all this.
You good?
Okay. It was pretty much. It was built like a storefront church. It was actually the field. It was Chicago field where I used to play growing up. What was your question, Pastor?
I just wanted to know how because that's what a lot of people are upgrading to now, is these steel, but they call them steel churches. And I know y'all had a brick facade on it, but how was that?
I loved it. I actually loved my time there. It was.
I mean, in church, not the preaching. I'm talking about the building itself.
The building work out for you.
Yeah, it was very modern. It was very modern. I mean, the ceiling was maybe 12 feet. If you could see everyone. Basically, I told you at the beginning, if I was to build a church, I would build a church that could seat about 200 people. It would be like, now, isn't it funny? These storefront churches we used to laugh at are now the mega churches.
Oh, they're the mega churches. Yeah. Cities. Now they just go to certain cities and the Best Buys.
Yeah. They're buying the old car dealerships and putting their church inside of there. And we were in our castles and laughing at them, but they had the tambourine. They were shouting da da da. And now they have outgrown us. But yeah, I love that. I love that facility. And when I was there at St. Andrews, I changed the seating, and it's been changed back, which is good for the pastor who's there. Different administrations, different gifts. But I love that facility because I could see everyone, I could touch everyone, and it wasn't traditional. It was a lot different. I almost forgot about that. Thank you, Jeff, for bringing that up. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about a change that you made at Grant or anywhere else, or a new initiative you instituted and you look back and you don't really feel that it was worth it or had the intended effect that you had hoped for? Did you ever have something like, you know what, maybe they were right?
That's a good question there, Doc.
Listen,
we shouldn't have moved them crosses.
Listen, man. Listen, I had well intentions. See, what had happened was.
It's ready.
Here we go.
I'm like Pastor Jeff. I'm not the tallest person in the world. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So we had a, and y'all already know we had a pulpit that when I preached, all you could see was like my neck.
Been there.
And it was large and it was beautiful, but it just wasn't me. All right. So and there's a book, the Who Moved My Cheese. There's another one called
Yeah.
My Pulpit. And so one Sunday, I took the pulpit out. I took the desk out of the pulpit and put up a simple lectern. Doc, I'm like, no, I'm like, for real. And I preached that Sunday. 8 people joined the church. But I almost lost my appointment. Because I didn't understand. I thought I was just doing something that was good for me. But I didn't understand how much that pulpit, the desk, meant to the people. The years that it had been there. The pastors who had preached behind it. And I regret doing that. Like, for real, that was very, very hard. And through meeting, trial and error, and teaching, I was able to get over it, and they understood. Now we have a plexiglass pulpit there, but literally, what I didn't do, I didn't talk to my leaders.
Right.
Yeah.
If he's going to move the pulpit furniture, he's going to do a lot of other things.
Anything. Yeah.
Anything.
Been there.
So from that point on, I always talk to the leaders and the gatekeepers, because some of your leaders are not on your boards.
Absolutely.
Correct.
I begin to talk to the pew pastor as well.
Yeah.
Like your boy.
Yeah.
Come on, sir.
I mean, like, literally be like, listen, this is what I'm thinking about doing. How do you feel about this? And but that moment, Pastor Todd, Pastor Jeff, and now they love that pulpit desk. Amen. If I was to bring another one out, they would be upset. But that was there's a couple other things too. But that was
Pastor Patton. Let me tell you what you didn't do.
What?
You didn't put wheels on your pulpit. On your podium.
No.
Somebody put wheels on their podium, and it was rolling all around. Who did that? And you smack the table when you preaching, it just go all on.
It had brakes, Jeff. It had brakes on the wheels. You could put your foot on it, and it would stop the wheels, but you had to remember to do that first. You had to remember to lock the wheels, Jeff.
Hey, man, I'm telling you.
Idea.
I'm sorry. That was the funniest thing.
It was an innovative idea.
Let me tell y'all. One time I was preaching at a church, and I got happy, and I hit my hand down on the plexiglass pulpit. Did the first time, did the second time. I cracked it like I was chopping through the desk.
Lord, that's some heavy preaching, Doc.
And the preacher, no, it was just not a good desk. But the preacher was like, and he's like my father. He said, "Man, that's all right. Don't worry about it, man. You was preaching. God was in it." 2 days later, I get a bill from the church.
I believe it. I believe it.
$900.
You should have told him. You should have told him that's what you get from buying your desk from Sheen.
You should have said God was in it. Send that bill to him.
Right.
Well, what I did was I took the desk and we fixed it, and it became the pulpit at the church I was at the time. Just crazy thing. But
wow.
Yeah, man, that was I should have never done that. And but yeah.
That's amazing. Hey, if you're watching and you got a question for our guest, Dr. Patton, I mean, come on and type your questions in, or if you want to just show him some love, tap it in. We're going to be winding down a little bit. I wish I had time
to break down what Pastor Tatum said. We have to learn to distinguish what is the baby and the bathwater. I know she.
I like it. I mean, I think that number one, what Pastor Patton spoke about earlier, things like screens so that people can follow the service and you're transitioning from one way to another, enhancing the church in a way that makes it more pleasant and better for worship for everyone, not just to fit a style of a particular generation, but to make it better. And does it push the gospel forward and make the gospel central? Right. Now, I'm with you, Pastor Patton. I'm a little anti-dark church, a little bit. And one of the reasons is because I feel that worship is communal. Worship is communal. And when you turn it into a spotlight church where only the performers on stage are of significance and you cannot even see anybody down the row, I think that takes away from the communal. Now, on the flip side, people will say, I like being able to worship and not be noticed or seen, and I can cry and I don't feel embarrassed. And as church people, we sometimes don't always relate to that feeling because it's not really been ours, or at least we don't admit it's been ours. But I feel that practical, necessary, gospel-centered changes. But I think just talking out, even through my own voice, talking about aesthetics of a generation has actually just during this time helped me to think a little bit more graciously about modern changes to the church. And basically what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if an entire older generation can say, we wanted it like this because we just wanted it like this, and this is what was great for us, then why can't a new generation say that? Absolutely. Matter of fact, the only can't is because the older generation is still there and might still have their attachments.
Absolutely.
And that's maybe if we would just be honest about that and bring that to the forefront of conversations about change, and then make people talk that out. We do have a great question we want to read from Seth Smith. Elder Smith, oh yeah, our man Elder Smith. How do you create a balance in bridging the old and new?
Man.
Doctor.
There you go, Doctor. Man, creating a balance. You understand that you want to do something new, but can I tell you who's going to pay for it?
The old folk.
That's it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's it.
We're not, I say our generation, we're not as faithful as our older generation. So we have to ask that generation, the bridging the old and new, what would you like? I don't care how many lights I get, no matter how the music ministry is, we are going to sing an opening hymn at Grant Worship Center.
Come on.
I'm like Bishop Rudolph McKissick.
I'm there. I'm with you.
He can kill it. He can preach. He can close it. They're going to have an anthem
every
day at his church. We still can be traditional without being traditionalist, but at the same time,
that
older generation, if you start bringing a grandchild to worship, they will love you. I told my church, I said, if it isn't amazing that most of your children don't go to your church.
Yeah.
Your kids don't go where you worship at.
Yep.
So if I have to get some turntables, I've had a DJ at my church. If I got to get some keyboards, if I got to mic the drums, I'm gonna strike up the band. So you have to, you can still keep it. You know, I'm AME. I think, yeah. But,
for now,
yeah, we just you got to balance. You got to ask them what they want, and you got to look at what you need. But first, it all comes with a vision from God, and He'll give the provision, and that provision will be sometime, most of the time, in an older member of your church. The pulpit that I talked about, I had an older member buy it for me.
Yeah.
Because I taught on it and why I wanted it. So they said, Pastor, why do you want a new pulpit? I said, you want to know why? I was embarrassed. I said, the one we have is too tall. When I put the two screens up, we had a middle screen, and it covered the big cross that's 20 feet high. And I told them, I said, Pastor, why do you want screens on left and right? Because I said, I don't want to block the cross. They said, oh my God, yes. I said, do you know we've been coming to worship and we've been blocking the cross?
Right.
And I talked and I preached I preached a sermon series on the cross. And then they said, let's get the screens.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, man. So I know I probably didn't answer that question of how to balance.
Oh, that's good.
But,
you're there. You're there.
You got to give. You got to take, and you got to learn to wait. Lord, be of good courage. Again, I say, wait. You cannot change it immediately. I said something earlier about it used to be 5 to 7 years. I came in immediately, changing things because I wanted the church to live. You know what I'm saying? I just had to, and I think that God is. I know God is.
And I think.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say. I think you made a really good point earlier about just talking, about just being open and being honest with those pillars who have been there. I know I'm like you. I came in with a million ideas. I came in with a full vision, but until I was willing to sit down and talk to some of these pillars who have been there. And also, you said earlier, you know, I just had a meeting with a lady who's going to fund my whole public garden, my whole garden, you know, just, you know, things like that. I think things like that will make a change, not only in the church, but in the community. And when they see that these changes are actually benefiting everybody and not just my person, but they're benefiting the church, it's helping the young people. You know, we're going to take little cups over to the school. They're going to plant them in the cups and come over to the garden and plant it in the garden. I think things like that just expands the whole community. And I think it does better for everybody.
And I think that bridging, the church is generational and it's not a one-way thing.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we have this clap back that we feel like the old folk have been in charge all this time. It's time to push them out and let the young folk be in charge. But both sides need to exercise grace towards the other. And that's something I preach to younger generations, partly because of what you said about, hey, if you want this, you got to pay the cost of it. You got to commit to this. And I don't see y'all doing that, truth be told. And at the end of the day, y'all ain't even the ones paying my salary. You know, young people, y'all ain't doing. So it is not like some fear of, oh, they going to put me up. But it's just one thing I said to my church, and particularly the younger people, and speaking to younger generations, you do know you're looking at a generation who they or their families gave blood, sweat, and tears to give what they have. And you think you should flip it all upside down based off a conversation. Right. You think just voicing an opinion about what you don't like or what looks old and stale should be the thing. They are invested and they have a right. It's biblical. You should benefit from what you've invested in. And the other, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's the Pepsi. The other side is there is a teaching moment again for the distinctiveness of the Black culture in particular, where if we don't want to lose our culture, we have to keep the hymns to some degree and measure.
Yes,
we have to keep the traditions. It will not all last. It will fade eventually into a different model. And those people that knew it, there are people in our church that once they die, the meter hymns or something will never come back. But I'm not just trying to kick it out just for the sake of it, just to say I did. And I'm not doing that, because some of younger people are kind of missing out. And that's a whole nother discussion. We've talked about how some of this new music just ain't impressive whatsoever. So they don't get, like, there's a reason we're sticking to the old, because technically it's better half the time. But there's a generational benefit there that you can reach across lines, and you can do the Israel Houghton and the Dr. Watts hymn. And you don't have to choose either or, and you actually make for a rich worship experience when you do that.
But a brother like E. Dewey Smith will make those old hymns sound like they 2025. He'll kill it. Here's the thing. You have in biblical antiquity, you have Mary who's pregnant, and she has to go stay with Elizabeth, who's already pregnant with purpose. And Elizabeth embraces her.
He's preaching now.
So we have to have those people embrace someone.
There's a sermon he didn't get to preach today.
I didn't get to preach.
You can tell when Jeff had a guest preacher, because he brings a sermon to the podcast.
I preach about Christmas.
Right.
But in the middle
of February.
But I mean, that's just a truism that the old has to embrace the young and the young. And watch this. She stayed for 3 months, which means she stayed until Mary started showing. So we got to love these. We have to love these younger people.
I'm gonna preach that. Thank you.
I know you are.
Mike, pass it the offering plate. It's offering time. But I do want to say one thing that we forget, and we'll go. Religion in general and Christianity is an ancient entity. It's an ancient entity. You're talking thousands of years, Judeo-Christian, multiple millennia. And so it's a little short-sighted and sometimes slightly arrogant when you seek to constrain and constrict it only to the time in which you live. Are you trying to be like the Jerusalem church? Or no, absolutely not. But you do have to see yourself as part of a larger thread, part of a bigger chain. And there's a danger in me, because I've heard people, commentators, preachers talk about where corporate America changed, Best Buy changes, this changes every 5 years. Yeah, Best Buy was founded in 1972 or something, and it has to do that to keep up with a market, blah, blah, blah. The church does too, but there's only so much that you can walk outside of. Basically, it's eternal and ancient reality. And there's nothing like the church. We do, even when we talk about change and transition, I think we should talk about it as a distinct entity from any other earthly entity in the world, because it is not like corporate America. And we might actually be damaging our perception solely by comparing ourselves. Nothing wrong with learning lessons from the business world and the corporate world and, other spaces. But, there's a place of desperation that preachers and churches have found themselves in, where they've reinvented themselves every 3 years, and they don't know who they are anymore, because they have they've done like them, and they don't know who they are. They don't. They will be whatever is watching me this week. I'll be that, chameleon ministry. So we do have to guard against that, not to stay old, but to make sure we're staying true. True. And true means it doesn't always meet modern expectations. And maybe you're walking into a place that seems a little out of date, because the church is not really bound to the calendar any more than our God is.
Right. That's good.
Any more than our God is. I'm not saying I want marble floors and a choir to the side singing anthems all the time, but I just feel like we would do well to elevate the ancient, which to me, I feel like, and this is how our friends overseas feel, the older, the more verified you are. The more our friends in the Middle East laugh at us because we think we're so great. They're like, you're like a child to us in America. Do you understand? You can reach, well, when I told you, our guide said, you reach in the ground and you pick up ancient history. You can find a coin there from 3,000 years ago. Absolutely. America, he's like, we laugh at y'all. Y'all just think y'all all that. And I think the church is similar. I think that we're sometimes chasing the consumeristic, capitalistic version that we know in Western society. And maybe that's a reality we have to deal with, but we should also exercise caution with that and make sure we're being true to ourselves and our God and our culture. And that's all I got to say.
Yeah, not just changing to change.
Right.
We saw something on TV, the televangelist, and now that's what we want. Why do you want it? Do you have the environment for it? You know, I find that, I'm sure we find that with a lot of our friends in ministry, and it's affected me as well. And I got convicted and said, why do you want that? Because they got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you said the screen was too big at Grant Worship Center and people can't see, I've seen your church. I believe it. I've seen churches that seat 50 people, like, we need screens so they can see. No, they don't. You're literally right on top of them. You are walking the pews. You are
right.
You know, they see you just fine, bro.
Yeah.
When you pick me up from the airport in that Cadillac, I was like, I want one. You know,
listen,
I want one bad. I need a Cadillac.
Big Mike has a question.
Big Mike,
producer, has a question.
Since things are changing so fast on the outside of the church.
Since things are changing so fast on the outside.
Why not keep the church traditional so that it is different, so that we can go back to that?
And that's a point I've actually made. He says, if you didn't hear, since everything's changing so much on the outside, why not keep the church the same on the inside? And a point I've made, and again, it's not for everybody, but that there probably are some, again, relevant and effective spaces that need to stay with their motif and their aesthetics, because they do represent, and I've heard this from young members. Mm-hmm. When I left the world and stopped going to the club, I didn't want to walk into another building that felt like the club I walked out of, or it's just cornball to them and they're not impressed by us trying to be that. They're like, yo, just be a preacher. Put your robe on and your suit on and call it a day. Do not try to like Jay-Z me into Jesus. Like, just, we know you corny, dude. We know you're not. But I've heard literally, and I felt that way. And then you have that guy that comes back and they feel better being in a church they remember than a church they feel alienated from and have to relearn all over again. I think there's a value, just as much as there are people that will never go to church and that new version is what might capture them. There's a lot of people who are still attached to the church as we've known it. And sometimes upending that might do more harm than good than we realize. Do you think that, Dr. Patton?
Oh, most definitely, man. I'm in total agreement with you. But I think that we need to look at the pandemic and post-pandemic church. Let me tell you something. Grant Worship Center will never be the same. Mm-hmm. I have people who told me they're never coming back because we like watching you on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and whatever social media. So our churches, we have to we have to change. I had to, I had never done Bible study online before. I probably will never go back to in-person Bible study ever. Wow. I have over 100 people.
I'm thinking about that.
Who are coming on. And when I used to have 10 people and be mad and in my feelings because I was there by myself. The church is changing. We have to change, but at the same time, we must remember our older members are old stones, the places where we have been and what the Lord has done for us. Yeah,
I agree. You want to close this out, Pastor Jeff?
I think it was just such a phenomenal, man. Thank you so much. And I know that Pastor Todd said we have to be careful.
Church in the metaverse.
Right,
say that.
He said church in the metaverse. Mike did. It's Mike. but just take me to heaven if that happens. Just take me to heaven. Just take me on the glory.
Church in the metaverse.
If the metaverse don't look like heaven, I ain't going.
Thanos gonna be the preacher.
Thanos. You're gonna have Spider-Man jumping around, people putting on skins.
But I would say that I know Pastor Todd said that, we got to be careful with consumerism, but we also have to realize, like you said, that there are various lessons we can learn. because when we look at things like Blockbuster that we always went to, everybody had a Blockbuster card. And if they would have made the change when they had a chance to buy Netflix,
they could have bought Netflix. They
could have still been relevant. But now you can't find a Blockbuster open nowhere in the world.
There's like one in Alaska.
So we do have to make.
Sarah Palin runs it.
We have to make some changes. Everybody, all the pastors who are listening, Pastor Bowie, I saw Pastor Bowie, I saw President Harrison.
Yeah,
I saw so many different ones who were on, Elder Carter, so many.
T.D. Jakes, we saw Marcus Crosby, we saw, who else did we see? Joel Osteen.
Everybody.
Shout out to you, bro. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in.
Hey, we want to thank our last sponsor, the Phillips Care Training. As you can see, the same family gives us all their money. So Phillips Care Training are the owners of High Street Fitness. If you're ready to get your body right for springtime because it's too late for the holidays, you wore the dashiki and hid your fat this month. Now it's time. You can't hide it no more. Call my man Mike Phillips, Phillips Care Training, High Street Fitness in Cortland, Ohio. Check them out. If you want to be a sponsor, be sure to send us an inbox or check our link on our Facebook page. You can fill out the form. Send us your money. We'll shout you out. Millions of people will be aware of your business and never heard of you before. So we appreciate it. Everybody give it up for Pastor Reverend Sylvester Patton III. Thank you, my brother. Thank you for being with us. All of you who are watching, make sure you follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, wherever. MySpace for Jeff. Jeff is still on MySpace. AOL chat.
And if you are
Jeff is not saved either. We need to pray the prayer of salvation for Pastor.
I think we do.
Why you say that? Why you say I ain't saved?
I know you, and I just got saved yesterday.
Oh Lord. I love
it. Listen. If you are ever in the Austin area, stop by his church. Especially, watch this. If you having food, I ain't never ate so much after church in my life. My God, I mean, they had a smorgasbord in their gym. It was just,
He said smorgasbord. That's serious.
Smorgasbord. No, I'm serious. It was like that. It was like that.
I believe it.
So check him out at Grant Worship Center, y'all.
Well, go ahead and fly me down there, Doc. I'm ready.
Hey, man, I got you.
See y'all next week, 8 o'clock, Sunday night service. Peace out.